Complacency in the news media combined with incredibly powerful propaganda and publicity forces mean we sometimes get little of the truth. Special interests have unlimited time and money to figure out new ways to spin us while cloaking their role. Surreptitious astroturf methods are now more important to these interests than traditional lobbying of Congress. There's an entire industry built around it in Washington. What is astroturf? It's a perversion of grassroots, as in fake grassroots. Astroturf is when political, corporate, or other special interests disguise themselves and publish blogs, start Facebook and Twitter accounts, publish ads, letters to the editor, or simply post comments online to try to fool you into thinking an independent or grassroots movement is speaking. The whole point of AstroTurf is to try to give the impression there's widespread support for or against an agenda when there's not. AstroTurfers seek to controversialize those who disagree with them. They attack news organizations that publish stories they don't like, whistleblowers who tell the truth, politicians who dare to ask the tough questions, and journalists who have the audacity to report on all of it.
You have a situation where U.S. ally Turkey has deployed troops into Iraq without the permission of the Iraqi government. The Iraqi prime minister asked NATO to intervene and to put pressure on Turkey to get the Turkish troops out of northern Iraq. And this Wednesday, Turkey carried out airstrikes against Kurdish PKK forces in northern Iraq. And there is a real concern that Turkey is doing its own thing while using the fight against ISIL as a cover. I went to ask the State Department for the U.S. assessment of Turkey's actions. Take a listen.
Does the U.S. approve of Turkey's development of forces in Iraq without the permission of the Iraqi government?
I think we've dealt with this, haven't we?
Do you approve of it? Does the United States approve of it?
We understand that Turkey and Iraq are in a dialogue about this issue, and that we're encouraged by that, and we think that that's the right venue for this, is for the two countries to work this out bilaterally.
So from the U.S. government, we hear that it's up to Turkey and Iraq to figure out the situation with the uninvited Turkish troops. The U.S., though, takes upon itself to invite forces from other countries into Iraq and Syria. The U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter this Wednesday was telling Congress that he personally reached out to 40 countries to ask them to commit special ops and other support. The Iraqi parliament has expressed concern that Iraq may be losing a say in what countries it wants to cooperate with and what countries it doesn't, to the point that the Iraqi Parliament's Security and Defense Committee is calling for the review or cancellation of Iraq's security agreement with the United States. I asked Mr. Kirby whether the U.S. addressed the concerns of the Iraqi Parliament's Security and Defense Committee. Mr. Kirby said he was unaware of the committee's concerns, but then our exchange took an unexpected turn.
AstroTurfers seek to controversialize those who disagree with them. They attack news organizations that publish stories they don't like, whistleblowers who tell the truth, politicians who dare to ask the tough questions, and journalists who have the audacity to report on all of it.
The situation where the U.S. invites forces to Iraq and the U.S. is leading this coalition, but when something goes wrong, the U.S. says it's none of our business, like with the Turkish troops, you have to figure it out between yourselves. Should it be of no concern to Iraq?
Again, another ridiculous question. When have we ever said it's none of our business?
AstroTurfers seek to controversialize those who disagree with them. They attack news organizations that publish stories they don't like, whistleblowers who tell the truth, politicians who dare to ask the tough questions, and journalists who have the audacity to report on all of it.
You are saying that about the Turkish troops.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that, I'll say it again, okay, we want this to be worked out bilaterally between Turkey and Iraq. And the way you're trying to twist all of this around to make it look like we're doing something nefarious or that we've got some sort of inappropriate relationships here. I mean, it's just so silly.
AstroTurfers seek to controversialize those who disagree with them. They attack news organizations that publish stories they don't like, whistleblowers who tell the truth, politicians who dare to ask the tough questions, and journalists who have the audacity to report on all of it.
Am I really twisting it?
I can't believe, honestly, that you aren't embarrassed to ask these questions.
Should I not be asking that question? Exactly which question should I be embarrassed about, sir?
You can ask me whatever you want. I'm just stunned that you're not embarrassed by some of the questions you ask. And I notice that RT very rarely asks any tough questions of their own government.
I do not expect the State Department to like my questions. In fact, I think the better the questions, the less they like it. But I also did not expect the State Department to say I should be embarrassed to ask my questions.
Beware when interests attack an issue by controversializing or attacking the people, personalities, and organizations surrounding it rather than addressing the facts. That could be AstroTurf. And most of all, AstroTurfers tend to reserve all of their public skepticism for those exposing wrongdoing rather than the wrongdoers. In other words, instead of questioning authority, they question those who question authority. You might start to see things a little more clearly. It's kind of like taking off your glasses and wiping them and putting them back on and realizing for the first time how foggy they'd been all along. I can't resolve these issues, but I hope that I've given you some information that will at least motivate you to take off your glasses and wipe them and become a wiser consumer of information in an increasingly artificial, paid-for reality. Thank you.